Hi everyone, welcome to the Chameleon Launches Product webinar. If you can hear me okay, it would be great if you indicate that by raising your hand. Fantastic, lots of hands raised, that's great. Like I messaged, if you have any questions, feel free to send us a message and we'll try and answer questions that way. There are quite a few people joining, so we can't unfortunately have folks speaking on the call because it'll get confusing. So send us a chat message. I'm really excited about sharing this with you. So let's get started. By means of a background, my name is Pulkit. I'm one of the co-founders of Chameleon. Got started because I felt the pain around having to read documentation or watch videos before I can quickly learn. And nowadays users, like myself, we sign up for things so quickly and then we want to play around and we want to figure things out ourselves. So, one of the things that we'll cover today is kind of what is it that Chameleon is trying to do, why have we built this product, and what have we seen in the market and in the kind of user experience world. We'll talk about the functionality, what is available, what's different to before, a little bit about the interface and show you a little demo of that. And then we'll also talk a little bit about how to have access to this, and then finally a chance for Q&A. Now we're going to try and make this a little interactive, so I will ask questions during this and would love to hear your responses, and then I will share some of those responses so that we can all learn from each other's ideas and how to leverage this product. I'll also pause, but feel free to kind of send a message if you have any questions. But that's the plan for today. It should hopefully take just over 30 minutes maybe, so you probably won't need the full hour, but here we go. So one thing that we've learned is that there's a key user behavior that needs addressing. Now, we've obviously helped customers build product tours and other in-product experiences, and that the users are not always ready to start a product tour when the product tour is shown to them, but they do want a way to access more interactive learning in their own time. One thing that we learned from an advisor who used to run growth at Atlassian was that when they did some of this across their products, they'd find that users would come into the product and have a key goal or objective and would continue and dismiss anything in their way until they accomplished that objective, because that was what the most motivation was for. And then after they'd completed that objective, what they would do is then look for what else was new in the product, what else they could learn. And there was this little space to deepen their engagement and understanding. And that was the time that was best to catch them, to help them deepen engagement and learn more. And so one thing that I think we want to look to address is finding a way to enable product discovery on demand so that it's per the user's convenience, and whenever the user is ready, they're able to find and get the help that will make them more deeply engaged, will help them find more value from your product and become a super user, a promoter, etc. So here, meet launches. This is a short little animation of what it does and looks like. So the idea behind launches is that you can have a widget that you deploy in product. User can open up a menu of tools from this widget, and that can then take on and show them interactively what's next. Now, there is a few different use cases for this. One, a setup checklist. And so here, you can have a launcher that includes key tasks, maybe in the beginning for a user that they should complete to successfully set up their account or to get going with your product. And as they take the tours and complete the tours, they will be marked as completed to give users some indication of progress and to help them feel good and celebrate success on their way towards completing the checklist. So that's one example. Of course, you can use checklists for other use cases. For example, maybe you have an old customer, but a new user with that old customer. And so that they may need a different flavor of setting up, or you may have different personas that require different setups, One example could be an admin versus somebody who's a team member. Another use case can be an update center. So you can actually trigger a launcher from a native component in your application. You may already have an icon or something in the navigation bar, and clicking on that will show a list of tools. And these can be all about recent feature enhancements, updates, releases. So often we see kind of companies and products sharing feature updates with blog posts. So you get the notification inside of your product, but then you have to go outside of the product and read the blog post about that. Now, we think there's a much better way, which is to get the notification inside of your product and then directly from there, get taken to the feature, learn interactively what that's about, and start to adopt it there and then. That's when your users already have headspace, and that's how you can encourage them to take action and truly drive adoption. Another use case can be a help menu. So maybe you have a lot of kind of support tickets, you're trying to deflect or reduce those support tickets, and people want to learn in their own time. They want immediate response and immediate feedback. So if you have a long list of tools, and you can use the search bar within a launcher to let users search for the help they need, and then again, launch that interactive product tour and interactive help right from their kind of in-product experience. And this can be fantastic in actually educating users because they're not having to go back and forth between screenshots and docs, but it also reduces their time to solution and gives them an overall happier kind of experience of your product. So these are 3 example use cases. And there's some other example use cases. You might want to use this for giving people, quick tips or shortcuts on how to use a particular section or flow. It could be, key workflows that they may not be familiar with, they may use infrequently, and you can show them how to undertake those workflows. It could be common questions that new users are asking, and so you can address them interactively. Instead of just saying, yes, we have this functionality, you can show them that functionality. And it could also be for existing users that are already active but want to deepen their engagement, want to become experts, etc. So these are some example use cases. I would love to hear from you. If you can think of some other use cases for your product, send us a chat message, and then we can share that, and hopefully we can have some more sharing of ideas of how you can use this. Some functionality that might help you think about what's possible with this. So one key thing is that you can customize the widgets. That means you can add your own logo, you can change the styling, and actually you can also, rather than require a widget, you can actually launch the menu directly from a click on a native element. Again, all of this is without requiring any code, but you can basically select an element on your page that if a user clicks that element, it will that menu, their launcher, where they can take, you can take a product tour. We have checklists, as you've seen, so you can show progress and you can add that to any launcher. Another amazing improvement is that you can actually show different launches to different groups of people. So, a core component of successful product tours is to be able to segment the audience and be able to show contextual help based on who the user is. Well, you can do something similar with a launcher, and you can show different launches based on different conditions. I'll give you some examples. For example, you can show a checklist, 2 different kinds of setup checklists for 2 different personas of user. Let's say you have an admin user and a team member. They may have to accomplish different things. You can show them different variants with different tours. Another example could be you show different kinds of tips based on what actions a user has or hasn't taken. Let's say a user hasn't, let's say your software is something like Spotify, so a music streaming service. Let's say a user hasn't created a playlist before. You can include how to create a playlist as part of the widget, and kind of explain the process of creating a playlist. Once they've created a playlist, you can show them a different launcher, and that launcher can be about how to share the playlist or configure the playlist further. So you can have, you know, different launches based on usage or expertise with your product. You can also have launches based upon how active people have been. So if they've been in your product recently, then you can show them some of the kind of more intricate changes. If they haven't been in your product recently, you can show them some of the more granular or broader changes since they last and were using your product. So there's a lot of potential with the targeting. And of course, you also saw the search functionality. So you can let users search, and we'll index any of the content within the tours. So that's all searchable, and they'll see the right tours appear and they can take those. Would love to get a sense of feedback, but I'll quickly cover some of the differences with the self-service widget, which is available for some customers now. So it's not just compared to the self-serve widget. Launches are not just limited to a single type of widget or a single style. Launches are not shown on all pages by default. You can configure launches to be shown on a particular page or on a particular domain. So you have much more control around that. And one thing is to avoid and reduce confusion. We're not going to let, basically, you don't change the list of tours that appear within a menu. So it's not kind of different to different users. You can compose the whole launcher to be for a target audience, but there will not be a dynamic or varying number of tours within the menu. What you can do with launches compared to self-service widget is that you can create multiple launches. So you can have a whole use case, different use cases for different goals. You can, like I mentioned, target by the audience, and you can have tracking and completion around checklists. So this is some of the major differences the launcher has compared to the self-service widget. And coming soon, there's going to be launcher analytics. There's a new Chameleon web app on the horizon, and within that there'll be functionality to show you kind of performance of these launches and what users are doing and not doing. So these are all of the kind of differences and kind of the functionality that we've been working on for many months to bring you. Let's head over and see some of this in action. And before I do, I want to take a quick 20-second pause to get any other feedback. So please do send me a message. Does this resonate? Can you see a use for this? And I'll also review some of the questions that have come in that time. There was a question about sharing the recording. This is very much in beta and early days, so we're not going to be sharing the recording just yet, but we will do in due course once we extend the release of this functionality. There was another question around search taking into account filters. So the search widget appears inside of the launcher menu. So that will only appear when the launcher is shown to that user. So if they open the launcher, then they can search for the tours, and all the tours that you add to a launcher will be available for that search. So you can configure which tours should be contained within which launcher. There's a question about how do we know that users took actions? So I presume this is around the checklists functionality. We do have separate functionality tracking the completion or goals for a tour. And so you can set up an event, and Chameleon will track that event, and that event can be a page view or a click, and then you can see how many people who saw a tour took that action. That's separate because that's part of the product tours product. For launchers, we'll know if someone completes the tour, and if they complete the tour, then we'll mark that tour as completed. This is effective because a user is clear on what's actually contributing to that check mark. If it was some unclear action, they may not know what is and isn't contributing, but you can set the tour to complete based upon a certain action. So at the last step of a tour, you can set the user should only complete that or move to the next phase if they take a certain action like a click. So if you set that up, then the tour will only be completed when the user takes that action, and then the checklist will only be marked when the tour is completed. A question about grouping tours together. So within the launcher, you can select which tours appear within that launcher. There is no subgrouping for users to see within that launcher. We will be doing some smart ordering, so tours on the page show up more quickly, but we don't really want to add a lot of complexity to the design for users to figure out through folders. So we're not going to be doing that at this stage. Question around, is it part of the pricing for this module? We'll cover that in a second. It is varying based on the plan. And we've got some good responses about people enthusiastically wanting to use it and that this resonates. People want to use it for the product, for the checklist. And so when somebody, for partial completion of tours, if someone partially completes a tour, they can take it again when they click that launcher, or click that menu. It won't start from where they left off, because that can provide kind of a confusing context, especially if they come back after a long time and they're looking to learn about that kind of tour. It will begin at the start, but if they complete it, it will show it as marked. The beta phase will probably be lasting around a month, so we will be turning around very quickly, and we'll talk a little bit more about how the beta is going to be managed as we kind of go on through this webinar. And yes, the checklist will remember the completion for each user. So if two different users will obviously see different versions of the checklist, and a user will see their own progress, and they can complete. But for them to complete a tour, they do need to go from start to finish for that tour. Okay, there's a question around using this for creating certification programs for users with different levels. So yes, in some ways you can. You can, for example, show a launcher based on tours that users have or haven't completed. So if a user has completed, let's say, tour A, B, and C, you can set that as a condition that this launcher will show. And, and so you can have multiple launchers which can help them progress across stages and show them based on other tours they have or haven't completed. Is there a way to refresh the checklist daily? I'm not quite sure what that means. Maybe you could add some more context. But like I mentioned, for the checklist item to be completed, the user needs to finish the tour. And if they are starting the tour by clicking the menu or the row within the menu of a launcher, that will start them from the beginning of the tour. Okay, I'll take a pause on questions now, and I will actually switch over to show you some of the interface and how this will look and behave. So we're going to be using a dummy application, which you might be familiar with. We use this for showing off functionality. This is not part of the Chameleon interface, so you will not see this directly. This is the Chameleon sidebar. It's the side panel where you can manage Chameleon tours and tooltips. As you may know, we have the tooltips product, the tours product, and this will be the separate launchers product. So within this, once it's enabled, you'll have access to this from the side menu, and you'll be able to create launchers right from here, and you can create multiple launchers. Let's look at a launcher that I created already. So in this is the example of the launcher that you see on the bottom right here. You can see that preview. You'll be able to configure this, and there are some templates that you can select from, but I'll show you that in a second. And you'll be able to have manual configuration. You can decide which tours will appear within this launcher and the order that they'll appear. This will pull from all of the tours that you've created from this tours product, and tours that are live will be available. You can then decide who should see this launcher, and that's based upon the audience targeting that you might already be familiar with. You can set this launcher to not appear on certain domains. If you want this to appear broadly but not in certain places, then you can configure that here. And then here's where you can activate a launcher to go live, again, without requiring any coding. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the configuration. We'll click into this, and you'll see that this opens the top bar. So in this, we have some familiarity. You know, this top bar is how you edit any of the steps within Chameleon, but you'll see two new menus here, the widget and the two new tabs, the widget tab and the menu tab. So the widget is this kind of target element that needs to be clicked or interacted with for the menu to open, and you see the purple square around this widget. So you can set how a user should open the menu, whether it's on a click or a hover of this widget. You can decide whether you want to upload a custom icon, or if you want to select an element on the page on which they should click or hover to open the menu, or if you want to use one of our default icons that are available right here. You can also use custom text. So if you wanted to use text such as get started or learn more, you can add the custom text and use that to configure this widget. You can change the position of the widget in here as well. So that's the widget configuration. And then you have the menu. What does this kind of orange window currently look like? So the menu, you can configure the title by clicking this, and you can set some other options and properties. You can even add a user property like a name, so you could welcome someone and you could say, hey, this is Rob's checklist to get started, and by sending that data to Chameleon and leveraging it here. You can change the width and the maximum height. So if you have many tours that go beyond the maximum height, that'll be a scroll. You can change the colors. You can decide to make it a checklist and also decide whether you want to include a search bar or not. So that's some of the configuration in creating a launcher. And as you might be familiar with, you can also navigate your app if you want to go to a different page with the Navigate tab, and you can preview everything. So you can see how this will behave and look for a user. And you'll be able to see kind of the interactions based on that. So you can very easily preview what you've created. So that's a quick example of the launchers menu. Now, one other thing I'll show you is that, well, a couple of small things, I guess. You can definitely add tags also here to categorize your launchers if you've got multiple launchers. And as you create a new launcher, you can actually, will show you a list of templates. So here you can see different types of launchers, and you can use those templates to get started, or you can then configure any of those to your own style or standard. So that's a quick demo. I'm definitely excited to get your feedback on this and have you start to use this. Is there anything that you'd like to learn more about at this stage? Please send me a message and we can try and cover that again as well. Or if you have any feedback or questions or any expectations around other functionality, then please let me know. Yeah, question on how do we get onto the beta? So that's a good segue. So when in general availability, launchers will be available by plan. So the basic plan will include 1 launcher. The standard plan will include 3 launchers, and the enterprise plan will have unlimited launchers. So that's kind of based on the plan, and more information about our plans is available on our website at trychameleon.com/plan. Now, we also have a beta group, and that's something that we are more kind of open to our current customers, and this is kind of what you need to get onto the beta. So you have to be a current customer, which you all are, I believe. You have to attend the webinar, so congratulations, that's 2 checks on the list already. We will send a follow-up email. So please reply to that email, look out for it, make sure, you know, if you're checking your kind of your junk inbox as well, reply to that email to confirm that you want access and you would like access. And that will mean that if you are currently using the self-service widget, that will be deprecated and replaced by this launchers functionality. We will invite you to a Slack group. So just for the duration of this beta, we want to make sure we can answer your questions quickly and share some expertise and incorporate your feedback, because we'll be doing a couple of sprints around improving the usability, adding functionality during the beta. So it's really valuable to get feedback and understand how you plan to use it, what you would like to see. And so accept the invite to the Slack group, then we'll notify that your account's been given access and you can go ahead and try it out and give us feedback. And part of that, we'll definitely share a survey. I would love to do any feedback calls, and we are looking for some testimonials and some customer marketing on our website. So we can feature you, your company, your use case as well, if you're willing for that to happen. So that's kind of the process for the beta. So look out for the follow-up email that should go out within the next week or so. We also have a second webinar for those maybe colleagues of yours that weren't able to join today's webinar. That'll be happening next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and we'll be sending that as part of the follow-up email. If you'd like to participate again or have somebody else join, they can join there. For more information, we do have a help center section for launchers. And we also have an email, so you can email us at launchers@trychameleon.com. Or once you've joined the Slack channel, you can message us on Slack. But please keep that restricted to launchers feedback and beta discussion, and not for any other kind of bug or questions. The launches section in our help center, which is available at help.trychameleon.com and then /launchers. Or if you're in this home view, you can scroll down to launchers. We have a few articles in here. There's a kind of a general get started, how this works. This covers the different aspects that you can edit. What we didn't cover today was analytics, which will be coming soon, as well as an API, which will allow you to open and close the menu without a widget, as well as getting data in and out of it. So that's kind of an overview article, great to share with your team to help them brainstorm how they can leverage this as well. And then we have this detailed help article, which talks through all of the kind of configurations and how they work, how tools can appear on this page, etc. As well as we do support custom CSS styling. So if you have custom CSS availability based on your plan, then there are some options here on how to further style your launchers based on custom CSS. So that's some information available here. And then also in the developer documentation, we have some additional API information if you're using the API to show a launcher or check the completion of a tool. So what we'll be doing is providing more information around analytics of who's completing what, and we'll be trying to run more education on leveraging launchers for different use cases. And we'll probably be having more webinars and videos in the future. But for now, I will take any of the questions. If you have any, we are a little ahead of time. So we're happy to answer more questions. There was a question around tracking users taking launchers and multiple tools to increase retention. Generally how you can drive towards retention is really understand the key aha moments for a user. What is it that they're finding value from, and how are they using your product successfully? And then try to understand what's preventing everybody doing that. And it can be a combination of users not being aware of functionality, not knowing when to take an action, not appreciating the value of something, or overestimating the investment required or the cost of taking an action. So these are examples of product friction. And so once you have a sense of where is the product friction in you and your users getting to a certain success state, then you can start to tackle that with tools and launchers. And so you can address that friction by either improving discovery and awareness, or better clarifying how the valuable something can be. You can use social proof, or you can give people suggestions on how they should contextualize or use your product. And so once you know what's the friction, that's when you can address that through product tours or through launches. So that's a kind of a high level overview. It's a, it's a skill and UI, it's some design expertise to think about what are your goals and what are these use cases that you can leverage, and how do you do that? So reducing support tickets, I would recommend looking at the categorization of support tickets. Where are you getting a lot of tickets from? What are the topics that people are submitting tickets about? And then you can proactively add some of those topics and tours into a launcher and then test that. Deploy the launcher live and evaluate over time how many people are sending tickets, or deploy it to a subset of users. So you run an A/B test with a launcher, show it to 50% of your users, and then track how, what's the ticket volume for those. That's probably a little bit more for the more sophisticated companies that are tracking that kind of data as well already. But that's how I would think about experimentation to drive engagement and retention with launches. Good question, Gary. Anything else? John, I hopefully answered your question about getting into the beta, and Dom, I've answered your question. Ahmed, have answered hopefully thanks for your kind of support. Is there anything else that you'd like to learn more about, or questions that you have? I'd love to interact with you and answer your questions. There was a question around encouraging users to answer some questions to demonstrate what they learned. Yes, so you can definitely get data out from Chameleon. We're actually very, very early sneak preview. We're working on another product as well, all around feedback and surveys, and so that should drop in a couple of months. But there will be more available around getting quizzes and information and getting data out. But with the API for launches, you'll be able to see if someone completed a checklist item or what data they had, and you could use that to put into a different system, whether it's your CRM or Salesforce or whatever else, to see kind of, so the rest of your teams are aware of what user has or hasn't done. And hopefully once the launches analytics is available and the dashboard is available for you, then you and your teams can also view it within that, which users did what and what launches were used successfully. So there's a lot of product in the works at Chameleon, and we're definitely excited to build it for you, but we'd love your feedback and a better understanding of how it can add value to you and your users. Great. Okay. Well, thank you for joining for this webinar. As I mentioned, please look out for the email and respond. Please, share it with your teams. And we really look forward to having you in the Slack channel and participating in the beta and building something that can be really valuable to you and your users. Have a good rest of the day.